Hello guys, Craig from fixitfallows, and I'm in the kitchen and I am with something that I personally don't use too much, but I did install it, and that's the oven. I make no apologies, I am not much use in the kitchen, however I can fix things. So this oven has been installed maybe 13 years, yeah, and this one is a Zanussi of some description, but you know, pretty much oven doors are oven doors. You'll be familiar with this sort of affair. And only just very recently you'd open the door to there and then it would get extremely stiff and you'd have to pull it to the extent that you felt very uncomfortable doing it because it felt like something would break, and then it would go. So a little bit of digging around and I traced it to these hinges in here. And I'm going to give you a little bit more of a closer look at those now. Right, so here we are. It's the same setup on both sides. You have this middle part of the hinge here is attached to the actual glass door. The pivot point runs from there through there to this side. So when the door opens and closes, it pivots through here. You have this protrusion here that goes down into a U-shaped bend, and as the door closes, this protrusion here pushes on this little, can you see that little jockey wheel? Now that jockey wheel is mounted on an axle across there which can slide backwards, and it's sprung loaded. So as the door shuts, the hinge moves around, this protrusion pushes that roller rocker wheel out of the way, and then as the door closes ever more, that roller can then return back, and it returns into this recessed shape in the actual hinge there. So here you go, we're looking at the hinge on the far right hand side. You can see the bit of the hinge, the protrusion that sticks up. Okay, so as we shut the oven door, you'll see that that protrusion rotates back into that housing, and then it gets to this angle. Where is that angle? To there. The door would just sit there unless I applied more pressure. So at the moment, that protrusion is sitting against that sprung roller. Now, as I apply more pressure to the door handle, the protrusion pushes the roller out of the way, and then the door springs shut, so it's past the point of balance, I suppose you'd call it, and the door is now firmly shut. Okay, the natural pressure, the natural strength in that mechanism is now wanting to keep the oven door shut. So you've actually got to apply pulling force to disengage that protrusion and roller. So looking down from above here, you can see this round darker piece of metal on the side. That's the outside bit of the axle that runs through the middle of that roller, and you'll see as I shut the door, you can see that that is actually moving. Well, it transpires that over time you get a build up of debris and muck and grease in here, and that jockey wheel on its axle there, sides back and forwards, starts to get very stiff. So it's simply a case of getting in there with something small like this little Allen key, with a bit of like a wet wipe wrapped around it. Pick out all the debris that you might find in there as much as possible, and then you need to get in there with a lubricating oil to lubricate up this roller and its axle across there. Now what I did is I put some tissue, some absorbent material in under this area here, so that any excess sort of fluid lubricant I sprayed in didn't then go on to the work units, etc. Just sprayed a little bit in there, done the same for the hinge on the other side, operated the door a few times, and definitely huge improvement. The thing was back to being almost like new. It's always a good idea to get in here and have a clean up every now and again, because over time grease builds up. Where you get grease, the natural dust in the house collects and accumulates in these points, and over time it's going to cause you problems. So every now and again, get in there, have a pick around, have a clean up, lubricate across this little jockey wheel, and your door should be fine for some time. Okay, one other thing that you should actually have a little look out for, if I can get this steady enough, is on this protrusion bit on this nib. I found that I had kind of burrs had built up on the side of there where that rubs against the roller in there. Over time you get rough edges on there which potentially can catch on this opening here and or foul on the side of this roller. So you might just want to take a little file and clean off any burrs on the side here and the side there. Obviously goes for the same on this side as well. There you go guys, another little quick fix, nothing too major there, anyone can do that. Thanks again as ever for tuning in. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and check out some of my other videos. Thanks a lot, cheers, bye bye.